that like you don't always know why things, you know, like why did I go to Costa Rica and learn Spanish when I don't even speak like my mother tongue? Yeah. You know, I was like not realizing years later I would like come back to Costa Rica and have this whole next healing experience there.
Definitely. Yeah. That's so cool. I love that for you. It's nice that looking back on those experiences that have come full circle and you're like, okay, I see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really affirming.
Yeah, because in high school I took Spanish and my teachers were like, "Yeah, you should probably not take Spanish anymore." I fulfilled like my requirements, and then they do this thing where like at the end of the year everyone like does this one-on-one conversation with the professor to like kind of gauge like where you're at. And my professor was like, "Yeah, you should just quit now."
Oh no. That is so funny.
Yeah, not knowing, like, you know, years later, like, I would actually be living in the Spanish country.
That is so funny.
Yeah.
I love that.
You guys were drinking alcohol in the first one, right?
Yes, we were.
Okay. Well, because it was funny because I was watching it, and at first, like, you guys all kept sipping it. I'm like, whatever they're drinking tastes really good. Because I was drinking it a lot, and then at the end, you did a shot. You were like, let's take a shot or something.
Oh, okay.
Like, oh, they've been sipping on alcohol the whole time.
That is very funny.
I love that.
Because I actually noticed, like, I wasn't even paying attention, but I noticed some. I'm like, they're all, whatever they're drinking must taste really good.
That's so funny.
Welcome to the Vibe Hive Live Show, where we talk about what's real, what's good, and what you didn't know you needed. Today, we have the wonderful Darsheel. Darsheel, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well.
Good.
It's an exceptionally good day today.
We love to hear that.
Yes.
Darsheel, I asked you on the show for a particular topic today. You're a part of my Facebook group. You're in my Facebook group, Surviving the End of Days, in parentheses, not a joke. This is not a joke. You know the Facebook group I have? I'm very serious about it. That's why I put, this is not a joke, in the title. And I appreciate your participation when you see things in the group. Because I feel like that's the same page, you know, like let's be self-sufficient, let's grow our own food, let's detach from the system, you know what I'm saying? That's like a peaceful way to be an anarchist, you know, to be self-sufficient. And I love that you are one of the only persons that I know in my life that are taking extreme measures to change your positive impact, like environmentally. So tell us what your recent adventure has been.
Yeah, so about 2 years ago, I decided to move to Costa Rica, maybe even 2.5 years ago. And it's definitely been a journey. I first went to Costa Rica in, I think it was like 2011. So it's been many years. I've been kind of going back and forth, but just from being there the first time and just experiencing on a small scale, like, oh, you can have nutritious food without having a lot of money.
Yes, you can.
Like, you can have what you need. I saw how the earth essentially was providing, you know, the basic needs for people who didn't have a lot of money.
Right.
And, you know, I even met people who like lived on the beach.
Right.
And I was like, oh, like you couldn't do something like that in the United States because the beaches are private property and they would kick you out for sleeping on the beach.
There's also a rare amount of trees, natural trees that bear fruit on United States beaches as well.
Right. And so, just thinking about the kind of concept of like the collective commons and just like, you know, that nature is abundant, but we've privatized it. We've kind of, you know, curated things as humans to like make it to where then, oh, now you need a lot of money in order to have your basic needs met. So there's something about that, you know, that I found interesting. And then as I got older and I started having health problems, like when I was in high school and college, and I through studying natural medicines, I learned like I needed to change my diet and cut out like meats and dairies and breads and stuff like that. And then I started looking around me. I'm like, that's literally all there is. I grew up in Beaver Creek.
Honestly,
So it's like, you know, the mall area is like, there's a billion restaurants. Like there's restaurants everywhere you look. There's food everywhere. And it's all meat, cheese, and
Yeah.
bread.
Deep fried,
Different versions of those three
sugar and
ingredients.
oil. Yeah.
And it's really hard to get vegetables. And if you get vegetables, they're very poorly cooked. Like they boil all of the nutrients
Yeah,
out
that's
of them,
true.
and they don't put any like love into it. And so I started, I started really developing some major feelings of like anxiety around food and disorder. Like I already had a background in disordered eating just from like my teen years and stuff. A lot of girls like in this area struggle with disordered eating and body issues and stuff. So I had already had that, but then I was trying to get healthy, and I'm looking around, I'm like, I started feeling really paranoid and just having really struggling mentally with reckoning with the environment that I was in once I had the education to know what I actually needed to heal myself.
Right.
And that I was gonna have to work overtime in order to get what I need when I already know better.
Yeah.
Like, oh, the earth actually, I know better. The earth provides
That's the
me.
part right there.
But like,
not,
it's not supposed to be this hard.
Right.
And then like, I want to be creative. I want to actually be of service to my community and like make money and like, continue on developing into my adulthood. But I'm spending all my time strategizing my food for the day. Like, oh, well, I gotta go 30 minutes over here to Trader Joe's, and then I gotta go in the special hours to Second Street Market so when they're open to eat. And then I want to go to like events and stuff, but I'm like, I don't know what kind of food's gonna be there. And I don't want to be hungry at the event, and now I'm like hangry and stuff. And I'm trying to be like, social. And then I'm asking people, hey, like, can you tell me what's going to be on the menu? And they don't want to tell me because they feel offended by me even asking that question. So now I'm like, okay, I need to eat a meal before I go to the event, or I need to pack snacks, and like, and I need to go over here to get the snacks. This is like just this whole thing. I'm like, this is just too much. I'm spending too much time.
It's a huge mental workout
thinking about this stuff.
And it shouldn't be how it is, and it's definitely like that in American society. I know over in Europe, and there's all types of places in the world that are established, so to say, right? I went to Jamaica a few years ago, and I can testify that, like what you're saying about Costa Rica, it was beautiful how much free food, free nutritious food, not necessarily on the resort, but leaving the resort, there's mango trees everywhere. You can get plenty of mangoes. There's all types of stuff, and it's robbery that here they make us crawl tooth and nail to get the healthy items that we need. It's sick.
It is.
Yeah, and then even thinking about like the the laws that relate to the farming and the agriculture here. Like, it's not that we don't have we have farmers, but it's extra hard for them to actually grow and produce the things that grow on this land. It's more profitable for them to mass produce things 100%. Versus having diverse things that grow that actually are supposed to grow on these lands. You know what I mean? And then, and then making it hard for them to be able to sell it because they need to do this, that, and the third to even be qualified to sell their foods. So once I started learning about all that kind of stuff too, it's like, it's just it can drive you crazy.
It seems like very overwhelming once you dip in to see just how much is rigged against you.
About the farmers, not to mention that they are contracted and they're basically forced, whether some people have the brainwashed mindset, others don't, right? But they're contracted to use the certain seeds that they're given, and it is illegal and mind you, the whole legality is stuff that man made up, what's legal and what's not. So it's illegal for them to regrow veggies out of new seeds from the seeds of the veggies that they grew, that they've deemed it illegal, right? So then we have as the process goes on, we have more seeds that have been genetically modified. Sometimes it's an all right thing, sometimes it's not an all right thing. They can cause cancer, they can cause mutated cells in us, And there's nothing that those farmers can really do because they're contracted, and if they go against it, they're not allowed to farm on that land. That's theirs.
Right.
That they still have to technically pay property tax to.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's insane.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. It's very, very regulated. Which just, makes it challenging, especially knowing that, like, regulation in itself, I don't think is a good or bad thing, is neutral, but, if the regulation is being pushed by greed and corporate interest, it's like it's in corporate interest, not necessarily in the interest of the health and the well-being of the
when
people.
It's taken to that extent, it honestly becomes an act of violence. Like, you are keeping people from eating well when they could be. That's violent.
Well, of course. And this trickles then into one of my favorite controversial topics is the pharmaceutical industry, right? Because they have these parties and these meetings, and they sign off contracts for certain pills and food for a big lump sum of, if you have anxiety and depression and high blood pressure and all these things, let's give you X, Y, and Z medication, when all reality, they're benefiting from, the food industry is benefiting from the pharmaceutical industry. And then they don't care about our health or our well-being. We're all just numbers. And
then you see, like, they do testing of the water, and the fish are dying, and they have traces of antidepressants in them, in the fish, in the rivers, in the oceans, because we're peeing out so much chemicals from all of the pills that we're taking as a society.
Just
It's
blindly
really crazy.
taking whatever they tell you to. Just a side note, I know Justina knows this story. I'm recently into therapy for PTSD, and a lot of my ADHD symptoms have spurred from the PTSD a few years ago. And so, long story short, go in, and this is the first time I'm talking to this particular doctor, and and forgive me because I'm not good at words, it's the one that prescribes. Psychiatrist. So I go in there, talk with her. She's trying to give me these pills. She prescribes me these. I never went and picked them up. She basically said that I was just too happy to, she thought I was psychotic. And in all reality, Justina and I had a really good thing that happened to us that day. I had a really good business meeting. Justina came along. Justina had a wonderful benefit from the business meeting that was spur of the moment. I had a wonderful benefit from the business meeting that was spur of the moment, so I was happy. I was like, I invited my friends spur of the moment to this business meeting, and something beautiful happened for both of us. I was excited. And the doctor's appointment was already there, and so I'm like, okay, I gotta go to the doctor's appointment. And for her to prescribe me something that she wanted to say I was psychotic because I was that happy. And it's just insane, because that individual, the energy of, people that are administering, not everybody, I met another lady in that office that was very level-headed, you know what I'm saying? But then the individual doesn't actually get the help that they need. So it's a detriment. And they'll just prescribe you whatever. And of course I have a brain on my shoulders that thinks for myself, but a lot of people don't, so the majority of people might just go, okay. And just take whatever they're told.
I feel very blessed. My parents are actually both psychiatrists.
Oh, wow.
But I feel very blessed because growing up in a household where I learned about mental health from a child, and they were actually trained in the UK first before they came here. And they were trained differently than how doctors are trained here. So, I've been able to benefit through being their child and hearing their stories and their reflections and experiences between the mental health system in the UK and here, and just like all of the wisdom, how they've integrated their own wisdom into how they care for their patients. And like I've heard a lot, about, especially from my dad, he shares a lot about his experiences and his thought process on the therapeutic journey, for people, and that it is like, okay, one thing to take medication, and you may or may not need to take medication to like stabilize yourself, but the point is that you take the medication so you're stable enough to do that deeper dive with the counselor, with the therapist, you know, with the person. Like the psychiatrist isn't the therapist. The psychiatrist is just to help you when you're in that emergency kind of situation where you need help to get stabilized, because maybe you have a family to take care of, you have a job to go to, you know, you have things that you need to be able to show up for, that to sustain yourself in your day-to-day life, that is like you're so far, you know, unbalanced that you're unable to show up. But then you definitely, and then going to somewhere like therapy or counseling definitely requires you to think for yourself. Like they're there to support you, but ultimately they can't do the work for you. You have to like utilize your own mental faculties to like figure your own self out, right? And like go do the homework that your therapist gives you, and all of these type of things.
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, that's blessing. How was it growing up with two parents that are, both of them are psychiatrists? Were they like hard on you?
No, actually, so interestingly enough, so my dad actually was child and adult, and my mom was adult. So being that my dad had child psychiatry, understanding, there were sometimes they used like some tricks on me. Like I was definitely that kid that was like, you know, they were like, okay, it's time to go upstairs and, you know, start getting ready for bed. And I'm like, no. And they're like, okay, don't go upstairs. And then I like sprinted upstairs. So that like, you know, basic reverse psychology and stuff, like it worked on me really well. But because he understood like the way that he understands youth, and even in our spiritual tradition is similar, that like that children are like little people. You know, so he doesn't look down on a child based on their age. And so he gave us a lot of space actually as kids. Wonderful. Now in this society, too much space also could be potentially a detriment, because he wasn't doing a whole lot of like, you need to do this, you need to do that, and then growing up in Beaver Creek, as a brown person, like probably could have used a little bit more parameters, direction of like, hey, this is, you know, the environment that you're growing up in, and this is the things you need to take into account and stuff. But yeah, we actually had a lot of spaciousness as kids based on his belief system, you know, that we have everything that we need inside of us already.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and then, you know, I grew up around the table hearing things like PTSD and bipolar and schizophrenia and suicidal ideation as a kid. You know, so what it allowed me to do, you know, as an adult, was not be afraid of people whose minds function differently than mine does.
I think that's such a gift. I feel like a lot of parents in this American culture get that wrong. We're like, no, we don't talk about that. Whether it be LGBTQ experiences or mental health experiences, no, they're not old enough for that, to know that knowledge. No, they are, because they might experience it right now. And if you don't give them the tools and the language and the verbiage, you're setting themselves up for isolation. Like it's just such a disservice to the child to underestimate what they can take on and understand.
And the seed being planted, because what if they haven't experienced that yet, but to be, you know, even a slight bit familiar or educated with it, so that when they come across it, it's not, you know, so unfamiliar. Definitely.
Do you feel like with your parents and being raised in somewhat of a contrast to how society typically does here, do you feel like that has bled into your community work and emphasized on that?
Definitely. Definitely. I see like my work, like my holistic healing work, like I'm not a clinical, you know, I don't have a medical, you know, necessarily background. But my business is called Circle of Roots Medicines.
I love that.
And, you know, my work is all around healing. And so it's like, I grew up by two healers, essentially, right? Like, you know, and they did it their way, and I'm doing it my way. I'm just kind of taking it to the next level. You know, they, like I said, they're doing that, like, okay, how can I help you stabilize? How can I help you navigate your day-to-day life? But then I'm doing that, like, that doesn't necessarily heal the root of, you know, whatever they're showing up for. It just helps you navigate it, not necessarily heal it, right? So like then you would come to do some work with me when you're ready enough to like, let's go to that deeper layer of it. So it's, I see it as like an evolution of the same thing.
Definitely. There's so much spiritual resonance there, how they stop the bleeding and you're dressing the wound. That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So what all do you offer in Circle of Roots?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of like, for a long time, my business was like kind of doing what was needed of me versus me saying like, okay, this is what I'm offering. But my, I studied conflict transformation. So what I offer is like an analysis and understanding around complex conflicts. And so whether that's like, within a group of people, for example, like an organization. So an example of something that I've done is there was a local school district where students were protesting due to experiencing racism in the classroom. And so the superintendent hired me, and I did one-on-one coaching with the superintendent to help them navigate the conflict, because they're like, for them it's like this person did that, the parents and the kids and the teachers and this is, it's like they're like, what do I do? So just to like navigate all of those pieces, and also internally, creating space and for specifically for leaders, to like reflect on their own positionality, their own feelings, their own thoughts and perspectives, as well as everybody around them that they are responsible for, so it's kind of like a coaching, consulting type of thing. I ended up working with the students. I worked with the coach. I worked with the superintendent. I worked with the principal of the school, and then I also did a training for the entire staff of the school district.
That's so cool.
And I navigated some of that conflict by giving the students like a platform in front of all of the staff of the school to like express themselves.
Good.
So to like meet. So it's essentially like what's really going on is the first step. Whether I'm working with an individual or I'm working with a group, like let's actually identify what's really going on, and then identify kind of what the needs are in the situation, parse it all out so we can get clear on what's really needed, and then create strategies on like how to move closer to what the desired end is in the situation, because oftentimes like what we actually want isn't what we think it, like what we're saying it is. What we're saying it is like, well, I'm not being heard, but it's like what I actually want is like to be closer to you. I want harmony in my relationship with you, but I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say, well, I want you to listen to me, and I'm not going to listen to you until you listen to me. You need to back off and all this type of thing. But like secretly, what we really want is closeness and togetherness, right? So that's essentially what I offer is like, different ways for us to kind of like go deeper into the root of what's really going on, so that we can make plans together of like how see more clearly and then chart that path forward. I also do like capacity building and education work around that. So like before everything hits the fan, like you could bring me in and we could do a series of circles where we can build deeper trust and we can build capacity in even just navigating the challenges, the waters of emotions and these challenging things and differences and culture and identity, and getting clear on those topics and just working on talking through those things as a group helps build trust.
Absolutely.
Even if we're not dealing head on with the conflict, but just us individually working in this group setting on those topics. So that's also what I do around cultural humility and conflict transformation. I can do like trainings and workshops in the form of a series of circles where we would just kind of go deeper into these topics. So that's what I offer. And then I'm leaning also more into the retreat model. So to me, the retreat model is like the best of both worlds. And we're actually hosting our first retreat next month in Costa Rica in partnership with the Lovelocks Experiment and Natural Onyx Dimensions. And so it's bringing this like trifecta of art, education, and healing, which is what we were doing in the Heart Dayton for the last 5 years. And bringing it to Costa Rica, an environment that is so freeing
Yes.
in a way. Maybe, you know, the idea is that maybe it'll be easier for people to have these deeper dives in a
Right.
different environment. You
Entirely.
know, that's like, you know, you're surrounded by nature, and it's just it's a more free and wild space to be able to go deeper into whatever the issues are.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like bringing that nature side in collaboration with this like conflict, you know, social
so
healing type of
exciting.
piece.
Wow, I'm so excited for you.
Thank you, me too.
You're doing a great spiritual work.
You are.
Yes, these are the things that people often need and aren't even aware that they need.
Mm-hmm.
You know how many misunderstandings the average person has because of egotistical conflicts or ill communication, which can stem into not being able to identify what's really going on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the self-awareness aspect. So you being in a position and putting yourself in a position, right, saying, I want to do this. I want to be a healthy mediator. That is saving so many people's lives.
Yes, you are.
It is. And that might sound like nobody's dying, but no, real shit. You are saving lives. You're saving time.
Mm-hmm.
You're saving heartache. You know what I'm saying? You're saving confusion. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? To give people a platform of understanding to, like I like to say, part of our thing of having this show is to bridge the gaps of misunderstandings.
Mm-hmm.
I love that, right? Because there's so many more people that actually understand whatever is right or wrong is wrong if you were to be reasonable and rational. And if they really can't be reasonable and rational, then you know that there's a problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When people can't just be logical and reasonable and rational, but most people that can, you can fix an issue
Mm-hmm.
and really save time and energy. And that is such a blessing. And they say that the person blessing others is the true one that is blessed.
Yes.
And so while you are blessing others, you are such a blessing yourself just in your own life.
Yes, so that makes me want to ask the question, how has doing this work and starting this affected and changed your spiritual walk?
Mm-hmm. A lot, especially with the heart. So for the last 5 years, I was running a venue called the Heart Dayton,
Mhm.
the House of Healing Arts,
Mhm.
and I was living there.
Okay.
And we were doing the circles and healing circles
Yeah.
and meditation events, poetry events, like any kind of arts, cultural events, and healing, and kind of being the face of the thing.
Yeah.
It forced me to like walk the walk
Yeah.
essentially, you know,
Uh-huh.
be the thing that I was speaking about. And you know, these are big ideals that I'm
Mhm.
like leaning into.
Yeah.
So you know, it's been challenging, but it's also really beautiful. I actually share a birthday with Dr. King.
Oh, wow.
Lovely.
So I have that like personality of like
Yes.
big ideals and like
Yes.
always striving
Yeah.
towards this, you know, ideal kind of situation. So it's definitely created a pathway for me in my personal relationships and in my work. You know, with Circle of Roots, like I require like circles for any kind of like long-term partnerships that
Yeah.
I'm involving myself into with Circle of Roots, because I know, like I can't unknow what I know about how humans
Yes.
function and how conflict works. And like,
Yes.
you know, there's been so many times where I've tried to do work together in a collective community space, and we're getting somewhere, and then it's like personal issues that like ends the whole thing,
Yeah.
you
I feel like
know.
that's 9 times out of 10.
Yeah. And we even looking at history is like that,
Mhm.
right? Like
Honestly.
looking at all of our heroes of social movements and stuff, and then it's like, what is it that actually tore it apart is like personal differences.
Yes.
Mm.
And not to say that like things have to last forever. I don't believe that.
Right.
But oftentimes it ends before it
was
really
meant
gets
to.
started.
Yeah. For sure.
Because of something that when you get to the root of it, like you said, it's like it's a misunderstanding or a miscommunication.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that, it's like I don't want to keep doing the same thing over and over again. So if I'm going to be in like a long-term partnership, I need us to have like regular check-ins that are like heart-based check-ins. Like, how are we really doing on a personal level? And I know a lot of people don't believe that the personal business needs to be part of the business.
But
you
it
know?
already is.
But we're not.
I don't control.
We take ourselves
Yeah,
everywhere we go.
yeah.
So whether I'm in the workspace, whether I'm here in your podcast, like wherever I go, I'm here. So it's like, so yeah, it's forced me to kind of like, I've lost potential partnerships and, I have a certain standard now when it comes to communication and relationships on personal relationships as well, because like, and it's forced me to like, even in my relationship with myself, like I have to spend a lot of time journaling because I need to like show up with integrity even when there's conflict between me and somebody in my community. Like it's not like I'm immune to any of this. Like I have issues sometimes with people and conflicts and stuff, but I'm so love it. I'm so grateful because it gives me a pathway of like how to navigate this in a way that I can feel good about myself. No matter what the outcome is, I can't control that. I can't control what anyone else is willing to do or not willing to do, but I know like I did what I was supposed to do. I took the time to journal. I communicated clearly. I offered compassion to myself and to the other person, and I also spoke truth and I advocated for myself, and so
that's all you can do.
That's all I can do. And I'm not perfect at it.
Nobody is,
but I'm really grateful that I have at least a pathway to look towards. I'm not completely lost.
At all.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
You're actually more on the right track than you might think. Yeah. I love that. So you told me a little bit earlier on Facebook that you're not fully off the grid. When do you go back, and then what is your daily life like? If you don't mind, like walking us through your daily life, just a daily routine and then when do you go back?
So I go back tomorrow.
Oh, yay!
Yeah. But it'll be a 2-day journey, so I won't be home until Friday.
Okay.
In my house. And so once I'm home, it's really like I don't have, people ask me this question often, like what is your days like there, and a lot of it, because you are in a place that's more like you're in nature, like, so we're the minority.
Of course.
The humans. And so like you kind of have to do what's needed according to, like, things may change according to what nature decides. Yes.
Just like the nature does.
Exactly. And especially in rainy season. So like we're just coming off of rainy season. But if it's raining, well, I'm probably not going to be doing too much outside, but I have a friend who like runs an entire farm. He has to do what he has to do, whether it's raining or not. It just depends on what kind of gear he's got on and what kind of machinery he's going to use, and he may have to switch up the task, but he always has tasks every day. I'm not on that level. So a lot of what I'm spending my time is like internal things. So like waking up with the sunrise at 5:30, doing daily prayers in the morning, and I give myself like an hour, to do my prayers. If it's a day that I want to do laundry, then it's like playing this game with the sun. So I want to get them, because I don't have a dryer per se. I have like a spinning dryer. So it takes off like the extra water, but it doesn't dry the clothes.
No heat.
Yeah. So I need as much sunlight as possible. So if it's a day I'm trying to do laundry, if it's not raining, then like it's 6:30. As soon as I'm done with my prayers, like I'm out there starting the laundry process.
Right.
And that may take like 2 hours or something. Like it takes a while because it's very manual process. And then I'm always kind of like building, like, and a lot of people like myself, they're working on projects. Like that's the language we use. Like, oh, we're working on projects. So my current project is building my guest house, so that I can host people there. So it's like whatever that next step is for the project, is kind of what I'm working on, whether I need to go to the hardware store, I need to go find somebody to help me, you know, a worker to do a thing, or you know, stuff like that. I'm planted some things as well, but especially once again during rainy season, like I don't have to do too much,
Right.
to be honest. I have an okra plant that's growing that's covered, so I have to water my okra, but all of the other plants are just getting rained on, so I really don't have to do too much with that.
That's good.
I throw all my food waste in outside.
Yep.
So I'm like regularly like taking my food waste from my kitchen outside into the
Composting
pile that I, you know, put it into.
Nice.
I may like rake my leaves like maybe once a week or something like that, and that's like a whole thing because the leaves are huge. It's not like here, you know, raking the leaves. It's full
It's
workout.
not a maple leaf. Right.
It's a full workout. So yeah, those are essentially, you know, the things. It gets dark on the dot at 6 o'clock, so wherever I'm at, I try to be home. But like if I have time and I don't have too much on my to-do list, I might go to the beach, or I might go to the waterfall, or visit the river, and just like really try to enjoy the fact that like I live where I live,
Right.
you know, and just be with the water and be with nature. I might take a walk like in the evening time, so I'm also cooking my meals. In the mornings I'm making a tea, like usually some kind of herbal tea, and then in the evenings I'll cook like a meal. So right now I'm experimenting with one meal a day, but I may eat like some fruit or something in the morning. So have the tea first thing in the morning, and maybe after a couple hours eat some fruit, and then in the evening time have that dinner and have that one meal.
Right.
So, you know, it's always an experiment. I try to also drink like coconut water in the morning, so I could go out. I finally learned last year how to like cut the coconut myself with the machete.
Yes.
So I love it. I feel
That's cool.
so good.
Yes.
I feel so good doing it.
I love
Just
that.
because there were so many years I couldn't do it,
Yeah.
so I had to like find some man to like come do it for me. But living alone, it's like, you know, it's just, it doesn't feel the best. So I have to like go walk down the street and like find some guy like, can you cut this for me? You know?
Right.
Like, nah, I'm gonna
that's
cut my
not
own
ideal.
coconut every time I
Right.
need it now. But yeah, I've been working on my guest house because I'm gonna be hosting some people. So that's the long-term project is eventually to be able to host people there and, you know, create a space that doesn't just benefit me but benefits others as well. So that's kind of like this long-term vision that I'm always like kind of taking steps on a daily basis. I'm also still in tune with my collaborations here in Dayton, particularly the Lovelocks and Natural Onyx Dimensions with Honey and Sage Bonfire in the summers. And then we have an event called Sounds of Healing, which is like a yearly event that we're working on. So also, whenever I am in town, I help out with the Healing Mind meditations and then our retreat. So there's always kind of like logistical things to be working on these like larger scale collaborative projects. So yeah, that's essentially my life. And then I actually just got an acceptance. I was telling you earlier, I got accepted into London School of Economics for a program that starts in the fall. So also part of my day-to-day is like long-term thinking about the moves that I'm making and how I'm gonna get from here to there and how I'm gonna have the money to do this and to do that. And so I'm a very like future thinker. So it's like this balance between like just being present in the moment and then also like thinking ahead, because I don't live with anyone. I live with myself. So it's really just me and me. I have plenty of time to like think about all of the things that I want to think about in my mind.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
That is so dope.
I wonder, I know you kind of touched on your community work here in Dayton. How does that work when you're in Costa Rica? What is your community like there? Do you have like a community of people that you meet with regularly? How does that work for you there?
That's a good question. I'm still working on that, to be honest. When I first moved to Costa Rica, I was living in the middle of town.
Okay.
And so I definitely felt more like embedded because I was just walking everywhere. Unfortunately, I found myself in a really unhealthy relationship with somebody who was also in town. And essentially, the way I tell the story, like, my ancestors essentially snatched me up and threw me out into the middle of the mountains.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what I really feel happened. And so now I'm more in a remote area, and I have a car. So it's like, in order to get to town, I need to actually make a effort to do so.
Yeah.
And then I only go for certain reasons. So I think like I've been doing a lot of healing in the last year or so from that experience to like be able to trust, myself again, to be able to navigate relationships there.
Yeah.
Like, it's one thing to have relationships in a city where you have family and friends and stuff to like help you deal with whatever dynamics you may be going through, but it's another thing to not have that and then to be navigating relationships. And so I do have relationships with neighbors, but they're like one big extended family, and so I think I'm still navigating like how to be how to just create more connection and closeness with them, while also like understanding the fact that like for me, a lot of being down there, I'm like healing from years and years of like being here, which has felt like a lot of my life here has felt like hostile. It feels like I'm in a hostile environment. That doesn't mean I don't have friends and family, but like as a whole, like culturally and society wise, it feels like hostile environment. So being there, I'm just happy to breathe fresh air and stuff. But so, I think that's the next piece though. I think with the retreats and me having like something that I'm confident that I can offer,
definitely,
then I think that will allow me to build more community.
Definitely.
Yeah. That's a very Capricorn way to approach relationships. I'm like, once I get my work together, I'll have time for relationships.
It really is like that,
But I just want to feel like I have something to offer,
That's fair. That's a very normal human thing. Want to bring something to the table. Not that you aren't already. Sometimes it's just mental. It's
a lot of it is mental for sure. But then on the flip side, it's like, it's very real because I'm like, I need a lot of help when I'm down there. Like, I'm not the one who grew up in the jungle. You guys are. So like, I don't know how to do a lot of things that here it's like I take for granted. Of course I know how to do these things, so that also makes me feel like, okay, what do I have to offer in an environment that I didn't grow up in? I don't really know a lot. When I moved to Dayton from Beaver Creek, I had done a lot of study. I had learned a lot in terms of what I was moving into, the history of where I was moving into, and what was needed. And I had a lot of relationships already. So I wasn't doing it alone. I was working with people who were from the neighborhood that I was moving into, and then we co-created something. And I was also able to I had learned enough that I could understand my own history in relationship to the history of everybody around me, so that I could, it wasn't like I was just coming from the outside to come help people, but I was creating the thing that actually I needed as well, together with other people who needed what I needed. So I don't know if I've found that yet there. I'm working on it though. And for me, my approach there is more so building a relationship with the land first.
Definitely.
And letting the land tell me what's needed. So I have a few avenues of things that are sparking my interest, and certain plants that have been calling to me, and things that I've been experimenting with growing that are plants that I have relationships with. So I think through the plants would be probably a way that I could connect with local people who
that's really interesting,
who live there.
I totally see what you're saying.
That actually leads me to my next question.
Oh yeah?
Because I wanted to ask you about the plants, and if you are A, growing things, or B, running into things in the jungle where you're at that are edible, medicinal, and goodness gracious, I'm having a brain fart. What's the other one? Edible, medicinal. What's the other one? can't think of it, but useful plants, right? So are you growing anything particular that is like for medicine? In my brain, what I think about that is like, what you said you're going on walks. What if you encounter a snake or encounter an animal out there? What do you have to protect yourself with? Or if you go home, is there some plants that you are growing to help? Poisonous, that's the other one. Medicinal, edible, and poisonous plants. So are you running into any of those plants or growing any of those types of plants?
Yeah, so well, one easy one would be nettle, so stinging nettle. So I definitely got stung by some nettle right outside my gate. I'm like, okay, I see you over there. But I also drink a lot of nettle tea.
Yeah.
Okay.
So nettles is very medicinal. And also from a spiritual perspective, nettles helps, with boundary setting. So as you can imagine, right? Because that's what the plant does.
Yeah.
Like, hey,
In the physical and the spiritual.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So nettles would be one that's definitely nearby me. I haven't done a lot of study in terms of like the physical side of like medicinal plants, but I have heard like things around like plantain leaves.
Yes, very
can
nutritious.
be really helpful, like when it comes to wounds.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I have a lot more to learn when it comes to that side. My background is more in like Ayurveda and traditional Chinese medicine, so it's like internal healing versus like wound, wound care and stuff. But I do know that there is a lot of like wound care available.
Yeah.
I just don't I know who I could call to tell me what I need.
Okay, yes.
Depending on that. There are a lot of herbs, so I do have lemongrass growing, and lemongrass is like a common healing herb. What I've been thinking more about as far as what I'm growing is like, what are the nutritional things that I would need, like if I wasn't able to go to the grocery store and stuff, like could I grow all the things that I need to sustain myself? So I recently planted a jackfruit tree, an ackee tree. I planted a mamey. I planted avocado. And then I planted like one of my all-time favorite fruits, which is called chiku. It's an Indian fruit. I think it grows in tropical areas in the States too, and they call it nesberry. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
I have not.
You have heard of that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but we call it chiku.
Okay.
And so I just planted some, and that also actually is really good for your like your intestinal cleansing and stuff like that, your digestive system. So I planted got my little baby chiku plant there. What else did I plant? I planted like some just like edible, so like some spinach and greens, like a local green, a local cilantro I planted.
Are you growing any like tomatoes, potatoes?
I haven't done anything like that. Just okra.
Just okra. Lovely.
Yeah, I planted the okra. Other than that, I haven't planted any other like vegetables yet.
Yeah.
I want to like, I have a sense that those will require a little bit more care, and since I haven't been there, I'm like, okay, these like the fruit trees and stuff, like they'll grow, without me and stuff. But the other things, I'm like, okay, let me wait until I can really be there for it. So yeah, but there are a lot of things that are just there that are edible, like hibiscus flowers, for example. Like I have hibiscus flowers that were already there. I didn't plant them. Those are edible, and you can use them to wash your hair.
Yes, you can.
So those are there. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. So the other plant that I have built a relationship with is called the soap nut.
Oh yes,
you can actually get those at the Second Street Market.
I have some too.
Okay.
Yeah.
The plant?
No, not the plant. I get soap nuts and create soap out of it.
Okay. Yeah. Nice. You use them in like your products or
West Health and Beauty.
Oh,
yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Very cool. We'll have to talk offline.
Yes.
I'm sure you don't want to give away all your secrets. I found some trees in my neighborhood. and the seeds of those trees came from India.
Wow.
Lovely.
And like they're in a public park, but like way before that was a public park, like it was private.
Wow.
And the guy like brought these seeds back from India and planted, I don't know how many like
That's
decades
amazing.
ago. And then like this little Indian girl comes and
Yeah.
moves into the
Yeah.
neighborhood
Wow.
with it on my heart to like, oh, I want to make my own soaps. Like that was already on my heart.
That was
to do.
alignment.
That is so
That is like,
cool.
look at God, right?
That's
Like
right.
and that was
Yeah.
like years
That's
in the
so
making.
cool.
That was
Wow.
like generational
Wow.
like
Spirit moves.
connection. So
That is so cool.
I was experimenting, and I had a friend who grows a lot of medicinal plants. So I had asked him like, hey, could you help me? Like, so we were experimenting and trying to grow it, and it wasn't working. And then I just felt inspired one day. I'm like, let me try myself. And I've never like had a lot of personal experience growing
Yeah.
things. So I was like, I don't, know, it's just intuition. I don't know any science or have any experience. But it sprouted, like it sprouted. It's like
Yay.
tiny little
So
tiny
cool.
little guy, like it sprouted. So I'm really excited about that. So that's the other piece that's like, I have a river behind my house, and
Yes,
some
running
people
water.
go and wash their clothes in the river, and
Mhm.
sometimes they're using the whatever packet soaps and stuff from
Yeah.
the store, and I'm just like, nah, like
Yeah.
Not that.
that's
right.
not healthy for the
Yeah.
water, right? 'Cause,
Right.
like that's all of our water.
Kill some plants.
That's the water
Yeah.
source,
Yeah.
right?
So I would love to like be able to grow more and more of
That's
those
cool.
trees that like I could share with people. Like, hey, you can use this,
And it'll help purify the land and the soil to not have the
Exactly.
toxic chemicals in the water from the
Exactly.
soils.
Definitely. That's super
That's
cool.
beautiful.
yeah.
I am ecstatic about the impact that you are having. We can talk about it all day, and I can post things in Surviving in Today's group on Facebook, and I do things in my own life as well, but to actually go out, and that's incredible. I'm so proud of you.
Yes.
Thank you.
And it doesn't like to be able to say, I want to make a change. It's not much of an effort to decide. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
To go, hey, I'm going to make a change. Hey, I'm going to go and make friends with my neighbors. Why don't we use these soap nuts? I've been growing these. So what a wonderful way to give back to this community, by implementing help in those regards to help the environment. It's beautiful.
Yeah, that's the goal. We'll see what happens. If that's what God wants me to do,
Right.
I've taken the steps. If nothing else, I'm literally planting the seeds.
There you go.
Literally.
I'm not gonna be there forever. If God has other plans for me. I remember like talking to this Rasta who's there, and a local guy, and I had asked him like, well, I have these boundaries obviously of my land, but there's the space outside of my land that right now is not no one's living there. And I was like, I want to like plant trees over there because I have limited space, right? And like when all these trees grow, it won't necessarily fit on my land. So I'm like, what do you think? Like, should I do it, or like, do I need permission, or like, how does that work? And he's like, yeah, like you plant, like
just plant the
you're
tree.
planting the tree for the sake of bettering the earth and the land. Like you're adding value to the land,
Right.
whether you stay there or not, whether
Of
you
course.
move, whether whoever owns, like all that is man-made in terms
Right.
of owning land and this and that. Like
Exactly.
planting seeds and growing things is how we have a healthy relationship with our Mother Earth.
That's what we've
and so
always
he,
done.
And he just reminded me,
That's so
of that,
good.
what I already knew, but I thought that was really beautiful.
That's nice to get
Of
that
course.
confirmation.
Yeah, that it's like, it's not about, a lot of times even when we go, like those who do leave the United States, there are a lot of people who leave the United States and go, move to Costa Rica or other places. But we still take that mentality of like ownership and property and all this type of thing. And so I'm really grateful to have come across people who have like helped expand my own mindset around how to be with the land in a way that's not about ownership, or like it's not like, well, this is my tree on my land. Like none of this is mine.
None of it.
None of it is mine.
Yeah.
Like I'm planting a seed, for the earth to have more abundance. Like
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
For whoever is gonna benefit from that.
just like the gentleman who planted the soap nuts all those years ago, and that you have stumbled across.
That's
Exactly.
beautiful.
That reminds me of the beginning of our conversation where we're talking about, the what is legal and illegal, these constructs, right? And in first world society, we see that how, if we have the vision for it, which I know all three of us do, have the vision to see how toxic and how truly detrimental it's killing not only our planet, but we come extremely close next, right?
Yeah.
This mindset, nothing is ours. There should be no property tax. There should be no paying for groceries. There shouldn't even be us paying for gasoline to go in our cars. When there's cars that run on water.
Right.
There shouldn't be a huge water bill when purifying water should be knowledge for everybody. How to purify our own water from the earth. How to know what water avenues come out of earth are good, right? When they come out straight from the earth, the ground is a purifier. To know that dirt is a purifier. That the world is just here. We are the temporary ones. It's not about us at all. We are just blips, and it's all going right back to nature, just as we do. From ashes to dust, or that is so beautiful. And living in America, it's easy to get lost track of the truth.
Yes, it is.
You're right, because that's the truth. That's the natural way the divine creator intended. You know what I'm saying? Our skin is the largest organ in our body, right? When we think about it, we're built to be out in nature, right? We're built for that. We can withstand water and dirt and clay on us, right? Of course, bugs and whatnot, but they sting you or whatever. There's different elements of nature, but that's what we're meant to be.
Yeah.
That's why we are nature. And I think it is just so beautiful that you are showing us these examples and reminding everybody that sees your journey of how simple it should be.
Yeah. And I can speak as an American, and only having lived in America, it seems like such a daunting task to take something like that on when the system is literally working against that kind of ideal. I'm asking this question selfishly, but I'm sure other people would want to ask you this question. What can, the average American who doesn't have a lot of knowledge on this thing, what can you implement in an affordable way to start becoming more self-sufficient? What do you think is a good step?
I think there's a few things. Like, one thing is just like developing that relationship, with nature. Like, go visit here in Dayton, we have 5 rivers.
Yeah.
Yes.
So like understanding like how that works, and even like the history of the 5 rivers, and like what that means that we have 5 rivers, and like developing some kind of practice, even if it's like the practice is going and having a relationship with a tree in your backyard, or just starting to like practice seeing nature as alive, as beings who are alive, who are here to support us, in life. I think that's one concrete thing that we can all practice, no matter concrete, right? No matter how much concrete we live around.
Concrete jungle.
Right, like there is a tree around, or something like that, where you can kind of start to develop, or whether you have a little plant in your house, and you start to like learn about that one plant and what that plant needs to grow, how much that sunlight, how much water that plant needs. Like, maybe practice singing to the plant or whatever, like experiment trying to like help this plant grow, just to like to keep that connection going, of yourself with nature. Right. Because I think a lot of it is like deep in our psyche, that we believe that we are not connected. Right. And then also there's plenty of community gardens that would love volunteers that would love and there's even like right now I think there's a program is it at Edgemont Solar Garden?
Yes.
Where they're like literally paying people to come and learn how to garden.
That's so cool.
So there's programs out there that will teach you how to grow food.
Wow, yeah.
And then putting your capacity towards a garden that already exists. I think a lot of times we're like, well, we feel like we need to do a thing, right? Like, well, no, you don't actually. At least not to start off. Like, maybe you don't know yet. Maybe wait until, maybe for the first 2 seasons, like you volunteer and you pick a community garden that's maybe nearby, or you have a relationship with how they do things. You like the culture of that garden or whatever it may be, and participate in that.
Yeah.
Just so you can get to know how to do things and be willing. You had emailed or you had messaged me on Facebook, like kind of talking about self-sufficiency and like what are the things that I've learned. And the first thing that came to my mind was like, in order to be self-sufficient, we need each other.
Yes.
Like the irony of that, right?
Yes.
Like, but the interdependence piece.
Yes.
Because like even thinking about in a practical way, if I'm gonna like be growing food, probably not, depending on how much land I have, but I'm probably not going to be able to grow everything, right? But like I grow some things and then you grow some things or whatever, and then maybe you have some knowledge, maybe you have some materials that I need, maybe you have a ladder, you have some kind of tools, like who knows what it may be, but we end up not needing each other in this process of self-sufficiency.
Yes.
So learning how to like show up and go and participate in someone else's thing, and then by the time you're ready to start your thing, you'll have people, and you'll have
really cool
places that you can lean on.
Yeah.
So those would be the 2 things I would say. Just like
excellent
start
advice.
building and developing a relationship with nature in general. Learn about the history of Dayton, or wherever you live, and like not just the people but of the land itself.
Yeah.
And then also like participate in these community opportunities to learn.
I love that. That's so applicable. Anyone could do that.
Yeah, exactly. And you said it. There's already established community gardens that just plug yourself into. To not be afraid to do the community thing.
And then we have our Honey and Sage event, which we talked about a couple times, but that is a camping event.
Yeah.
And it's a music festival. It's fun, and I think last year we had maybe like 30 or 40 first time campers.
Wow, that's so cool.
Join us. So it's definitely like, if it's your first time and you've never experienced like being in the outdoors and everything, like you won't be alone. You're in a supportive environment. It's fun. We've got music, we've got bonfires, we've got food, and
that's so cool.
Community and just good vibes. So definitely be on the lookout for that event, because that's also one where in a collective environment that's very fun and entertaining and family friendly.
That's really cool.
People who are maybe seeking to develop a relationship with nature can do that, and we're hoping to have representation from other organizations that will be sharing more information about things that you can get plugged into afterwards.
I love that.
Yeah.
When is the Honey and Sage bonfire?
It's actually the first weekend of August.
Okay.
So I think August 1st through 3rd, if I'm not mistaken.
Very cool.
Yeah. So stay in tune with the Love Locks experiment to find out about that.
I can already feel our energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Like, yes, we're gonna go.
We'll be there.
We'll be there.
I will be there too. I'm gonna make sure I'm in Dayton.
Good.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
And then when does the Love Locks come to Costa Rica?
Next month.
Okay,
That's so
great.
Yes, next month. So
exciting.
they'll be Javaz and Onyx will be with me for the whole month. So I'll be hosting them in my new guest house that I've been working on.
Exactly.
And then the 3rd week of March 16th through the 23rd, is when we're hosting our retreat.
Very cool.
And then on the last day of the retreat, they're actually going to be playing a live reggae show in the community in Caulita.
Wow, I love it.
Yeah.
I have a question. Do you, because I feel like your journey is something that I would want to watch and be a part of. Do you do social media? Like, do you kind of vlog or in catalog at all?
A little bit. I'm still working on like which is the right platform and everything.
Yes.
But I did just start a podcast myself with Natural Onyx, Kashaya, and our friend Toya Webb.
Yes.
So, and it's a
Love
more
that.
personal journey
That's
type
so
of
cool.
podcast, and so we all share a lot more personal stuff there. That's called Consciously Raw. And so we're on Facebook and Instagram and on YouTube. So we do our episodes completely live. on
Very cool.
Facebook,
Yeah,
Facebook Live, and then we record them and put them on YouTube.
I love that.
Yes.
And then I do have a Substack as well. So
Okay.
like Substack is like where you'll get my like
Yeah.
deep philosophy,
Yeah.
you know, like what's going on as I'm navigating this like international
Yeah.
life I live.
Okay, cool. So that's kind of like a blogging kind of
yeah.
stuff. Okay.
Yeah. I'm wanting to get more regular,
Yeah,
you know, so I don't know when the last one was.
I feel you.
But that would be the place to go
Okay, cool.
to get like my deeper reflections on
Mhm.
where I weave it all together. You know, the
Yes.
conflict, you know, the peace building,
Yes.
the business, the astrology, the spirituality,
Right.
the nature, the fire ants,
Ah.
Yep.
Yes.
all of that. Yeah.
I love that.
Speaking of fire ants, how familiar or have you come across anybody eating insects or insect harvesting for sources
I
of
haven't.
protein?
I actually haven't.
That's interesting.
I haven't. Yeah. Who? Not in Costa Rica. Maybe more so like I used to be like in the festival world,
Yeah.
and so I think maybe it was like more in
I
that
see
world. And I want to say, like I know I've had it at one experience one time where I had a friend who like had the dried like
Mhm.
in the bag.
Yeah,
Yeah,
powdered
some
up.
kind of insect.
Yeah.
Like crickets, I think it was
Yeah,
crickets.
yeah,
Yeah,
crickets.
Yep.
And it's
Um,
common and nutritious and
Yeah.
I
I want to
asked-
say they were Asian. Like I want to
Okay.
say maybe
Yeah.
like the packaging
That's-
like it came from
yeah,
Asian.
what I'm
store or
familiar
something.
with the culture, and a lot of it is high population. I know, like in China, high population, a lot less land to grow animals. That's a very viable source, and
Right.
it's becoming a lot less taboo. I think a lot of people have done it for hundreds of years, and
Right.
just
Have you ever tried?
I have ate crickets before, yes.
Okay.
But
Was
you
it
know,
like was it something on it or was it just like a cricket?
seasoned and
It was like dry.
yeah, dry and just like crunchy and
Mhm.
seasoned up with.
Was it the full cricket, like a full
yes,
body and everything?
Yes.
Oh.
And then I've also had a chocolate covered
Oh.
cricket. I know. All right. But yeah, I think it's a lot more normal than a lot of people would like to think.
Mhm.
Because let's take for examples, and this is something I recently learned that the internet has told me, that sea crustaceans, right?
Mhm.
We love generally in society, we love crab legs and lobsters
Yeah.
and shrimps. That's a very general thing that the majority of people like. Those are the cockroaches of the bottom of the ocean. And you know, the flavor is good, the flavor's there, all that stuff. What's so different about the same type of creature on the land?
Yeah.
It's, you know, a familiarity that we've, or, you know, the taboo or the familiarity, right? Because those are
Yeah.
the two things. Are you familiar with it? Or are you not? You know, just what are you used to?
Right.
It did psych me out eating a cricket,
Yeah.
but I'm like thinking, like, it's not bad,
Right.
Yeah.
you know? But yeah, I didn't know if you'd ran across that, just because, you know, being in such a rural area,
Yeah.
you're gonna have insects, you're gonna have bugs, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So, but yeah, I would much rather eat mangoes and okra, okay, and hibiscus flower than the fire
So
ants.
funny. That does
But
make
yeah.
me want to ask you though, when you did start integrating yourself to Costa Rica, what was one thing that is like culturally normal there that you were like, that took you back?
Yeah, like a culture shock for you.
I'll say two things. And these are like, I wouldn't necessarily say like Costa Rica things, but they're just
Right.
things that I've experienced with the people that I've been around. Well, one Costa Rica thing, you know, they do the like kissing on the cheek kind of greeting
yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And in me, how I grew up personally, like we don't even touch when we greet, right? Like
right,
Yeah.
right.
You know?
It's just culture difference.
so, like the touchiness
I can
of
see that,
things,
yeah.
is definitely was something is still like something that I navigate, like
Yeah.
you know, And then the other thing, this is definitely not a Costa Rica thing at all, but it's in the area where I'm at because it's like a high tourist area. So
Okay.
like a lot of people are coming and going. So relationship dynamics are very different than like how I was raised relationships are supposed to be.
Okay.
And so, yeah, like, especially when it comes to like a concept like marriage or something like that, like, I don't feel like people have this like strong traditionalism when it comes to like what does marriage mean and what are the parameters of marriage and like the assumptions of like I come from a culture that's very traditional when it comes to relationships, like arranged marriages, and like it's just kind of assumed like this is just kind of like the role of marriage and family in your life, and that the once you get married your focus is on building a family together. Like that doesn't mean that people don't like step out or anything in my culture, but there is kind of like a shared value system around you know, family and then in my faith tradition, like marriage is also like it's a spiritual bond and like I don't want to say contract, but I can't think of a better word.
But spiritually.
But yeah, it's like you're
it's
making an agreement
contract
with God essentially to like accompany this person on their journey towards God. So it's not even like, you know, I think in some marriages ceremonies you look at each other. We both like face God. We face forward, so we're next to each other. So it's like it's not about. Because I feel like you look at someone long enough, you start picking them apart. You're like, oh, you know, your ear's kind of weird, or you know, like you start, you make it all about the other person and stuff. Like, well, you're not who you used to be. I don't think we should all this type of thing. But it's not about any of that. It's like it's me and my journey with God, and you and your journey with God, and I'm just here to accompany you on your journey with God. And the love grows over time, like in an arranged marriage, for example. Like you have the rest of your life to fall in love with each other as you get to know each other and you go through life together.
I love that.
So there's like a certain like sacredness that like I hold the concept of marriage, which I don't see too much.
That's really interesting
around me.
Is it really kind of loose?
Yeah, just because like I said, it's like a touristy area and there's like a lot of, you know, foreigners in and out and things, and so people don't necessarily grow up with like the type of family household that like I grew up with of like
there's no nuclear family.
Yeah, not the same way.
Right, I get that.
Yeah, and maybe more in like the rural areas and stuff, it may be different, but I've spent the majority of my time like on the beach side and like in town, and that's where like there's a lot of partying and all this, and just like in the United States and like cities where there's a lot of partying and tourism, it is really hard to like keep families together.
It is.
And I just want to acknowledge, you know, that it's not all the locals, right? Because there are people that have fetishes.
Oh yeah.
Right? So to just keep it very simple example, if you have Americans, majority white people, touristing to, there is a lot of touchy-feely, kisses on the cheeks, nightclubs, you know, if you want to fuck, you know. But when you think about it, that's not all on the locals.
No.
Because a lot of white people are prejudiced and they'll say terrible things about people in third world countries or any fucking where, you know, and say, well, this is a way that this group of people is. That's not accurate.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of those people that are touristing, a lot of them have fetishes. Whether they're white or not.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Whether they're white, black, brown, yellow, green, from anywhere, people can go and want to delve themselves into something just for an experience, right? And then there's a different underlying theme there that us as, not just even as cultural societies, which are smaller, right? We have our societies within our culture, but then we also have the society as a world, right? And as humankind and how we've transpired. That sex has been such on the forefront to everybody, right? Rather than spiritual connection, a lot of people find relief in sex
Right.
and go on vacation and want to do that.
Yeah.
So these things transpire in different ways.
Right. And then the
You know?
tourism economy.
Yeah.
You know, like there's a whole economy around it. Just like in Asia, you know, like
Right.
there's people who go there to buy wives and stuff.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
there's the whole global, that's why I said like I had to disclaimer, I'm like, this isn't like a comment on Costa Rican culture by any
Yes,
means. Like it's not
Right.
a Costa Rican thing.
Exactly.
Actually, Costa Rican as a whole is like majority Catholic, you know, and very strong religious values.
Right, exactly.
But I've spent most of my time in
That
this
makes
kind
sense.
of area that is very touristy. So
Yeah.
it's hard to like have a sense of a rooted culture when you
Yeah.
have a lot of people coming and
Wow.
going, a lot of like people bringing outside cultures in. So it's like a mix, like
Yes.
a mix, you know, it's a mix of a lot of different cultures. So you don't
Exactly.
necessarily have these like rooted sense of values.
Right.
But
Exactly.
for me, like when I'm here in Dayton, whether I was living at the heart or not, my parents are here, so I'm still connected to like my
Yeah.
familial culture.
Yeah.
But when I'm there, I'm not. Like I don't. There's hardly any Indians there, let
Right.
alone Sikhs. You know, so
Right.
I'm kind of like even more of a cultural outsider there in some ways than I am here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Just because I have that rootedness of my parents being here.
Definitely.
So in that way, it's like when you know that is something culturally that I have to navigate because I'm building relationships with people, and so
Right.
I have to kind of like speak on. And that, honestly, that's a struggle I face here too.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
face
this
that
is a
when I'm in
melting
Dayton
pot.
as well, as
Of
far as like
course.
that cultural value around
I'm
like
glad you said that.
relationships and
Yes.
and marriage and stuff.
Yeah.
Like
Because
here,
it's
like
here in
it's like
America
you
as
say
well.
marriage here when you're dating, and it's like taboo to say marriage when you're
100%,
dating.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, no, she didn't. It is too early.
Yes.
How could you even say that word?
Yeah.
Some people are so used to, it's become a part of American culture to, it's okay to cheat or have side pieces. If people want multiple wives and that's consensual, that's one
Right.
thing.
Right.
But it's different when there's this culture that has appropriatized cheating and lying.
Yeah.
And then, you know, just like you said, when people share values, right? That culture breeds in a different way. We run into less conflict of those values,
Mhm.
you know, versus like just the same as a tourist area in any other place, you have it in an inner city. You know, there's
Yeah.
positives and negatives to
Yeah.
everything.
You know, I think I just came up with a better example of a cultural difference. So in Costa Rica, there's the tagline "Pura Vida," which means
Yes.
pure life.
Yes.
So people say "Pura Vida" for everything. Like,
Mhm.
hi, bye, you know, how are you doing? I'm doing well. It's all "Pura Vida."
Yeah.
Got you.
And the idea behind Pura Vida is like kind of, or a lot of people use Pura Vida to kind of just like let God, you know, like it's all good kind of a
Right.
thing. Which is interesting because a lot of people from the United States, we're very ambitious. We're not gonna just let God,
Right.
like let God do what? Like I'm gonna go
Yeah.
get it.
I'm the hands and feet of the Lord. What do you
I'm
mean?
going-
Right,
yeah.
right.
So we're very like get it done.
Hustle culture.
If someone tells us
Right.
it can't be done, we're gonna find out how it can be done.
That's
Like,
right.
There's
Yeah.
no, we don't take no
Definitely.
for an answer. Let me speak to your supervisor.
Yeah.
Like I'm not leaving here until I get
There's
what
no
I
wait
came
and
for.
see type
Well, the
of
American
stuff,
infrastructure and societal infrastructure is damn near made us that way,
Right.
right? You can't get nowhere on the phone when you call customer service. You have to get upset.
But a lot of people in Costa Rica, they may just be like, "Oh wow," like they just let
Carefree.
they just let it go.
Not for me.
And I've seen it like a lot of people from the United States who have moved down there struggle with that, and then a lot of
See
locals
that.
are like, "Man, y'all be doing the most. Like, chill out.
I can
Like
see
you're so
that.
demanding. You're so this. You're so that." And yeah, so that's something that I think that I'm kind of closer to the middle of that
Yeah.
spectrum. Like I definitely see a lot of people from the States, like tourists and stuff, and they're just rude, you know, like
Oh, yeah.
I'm not gonna be rude, but you know, I still have that in me of like, you know, I was an activist, you know,
Right.
so it's like I'm going to act.
Turn up,
I'm
yeah.
going to.
Mhm.
I'm not going to just give up if I'm seeking, you know, something.
Yeah.
So that's something that I've had to find some more balance in of like just letting it be what it is, and then maybe like finding another way, but like we're very direct communicators in the United States. Like the way we use the English language is very like, but I've lost important work relationships there, especially as a woman.
Oh yeah.
And being very direct.
I can see that.
In like what my issues are and stuff. I'm like, well, why don't we, you know? And then they're like turned off.
Wow,
and they're just like,
that's really interesting.
You know, because that's not how they're
more carefree.
Yeah,
not to be as
and even the way they talk is just they feel uncomfortable with like direct confrontation. Like that's not how they deal with things.
Wow. That is so interesting that Spirit put you there with the work that you do.
Right, conflict.
That's crazy.
Right.
That's why I'm like, I'm trying to figure out, like, it's going to have to be about plants because I'm not sure it's going to be about conflict.
That is so interesting.
But it is, like, you know, when it comes to my friends and people who I've developed, like, trusting relationships with, like, I have been able to have some conversations around, like, emotions and just, like, giving yourself space to, like, have emotions and maybe, like, the benefit of proactive communication of like, you know, you can see how because you chose not to talk about it that such things happened, and maybe in the future, you know, like if you're aware of like what you need or your needs changing or something like that, or something's not working for you, like maybe you could talk about it ahead of time, and that maybe you'd be surprised that, you know, like the woman in your life like would actually be like, she may be upset about what you're saying, but then maybe she would be able to find like a compromise with you instead of you having to like do all these other things because you are trying to avoid her feelings. Like maybe give her the dignity of like allowing herself to feel how she feels, because you may actually be able to come together on the other side of her feeling her feelings.
Yes.
Because ultimately you do want the same things. You want the connection, the relationship, and all that.
Right.
So there has been spaces where I've been able to kind of share some of the philosophies behind my work and people being open to them. But it's, you know, here and there, like when there's a lot of trust there, and I have to approach it a little bit more. I have to have some more, I don't know what the word is, savvy and compassion, and just not be so direct.
I can see that. Yeah.
Whereas, you know, here, if I was talking to someone, I'd be like, well, why didn't you just? Like, girl, come on, what are we doing here?
Transparent.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so interesting.
So something stuck out in my head that referenced to another point we talked about earlier, and Love Locks and Natural Onyx coming. You said next month, right? And what you guys do at the Heart and the. I know you said your sound healing is an event like once a year. I'm sure if you were talking about you guys are bringing the sound healing there, but it's still the essence of the group effort, and we're healing our spirits, right? And you were telling me that Jabez and Onyx wants to bring that to a different environment, right? And you guys are all pairing up to bring it to a different environment, right? So when you were talking about the cultural difference of the more carefree spirit, right? It makes absolute sense, and is no question why that is. And we bring it right back to the plants, right? Because in these environments, Jay's been in my house. Jay, basically, that's my second, you know, she's my sister, she has keys to my house, so you know all of that. There's plants everywhere, is what I'm trying to say. Jay knows, there's plants everywhere. I brought them in here. It makes me feel good. They give me good energy. I see if it's feeling down. I know this one needs a little bit further away from the window. These need, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they care for me and pour back into me just like I care for them, right? And so there's a spell that the plants cast, right? And it's the spiritual resonance. And it's just a no-brainer as to why we might feel more adept to go deeper within in a rural place where we are surrounded by the true divine creator's intent for healing, which is nature, right? Versus the concrete jungle.
That's
right? So bringing that back to the point of what you're saying, these individuals are more carefree. Well, that's no question.
Right, they're
Yeah,
in a
that
beautiful
makes sense.
environment.
Makes
They're like,
entire
look at
sense.
where we are.
Look at, and
Why
then
wouldn't
look
Look
at,
around.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. What
Yeah.
are you so stressed out about?
And although this is a beautiful view, we have a beautiful view of Dayton, Ohio in the background, and it is a beautiful view, but it's energy,
Yeah.
right? Because of all the things that go on out here in this concrete jungle, right? And I'm not talking all about the streets, baby. I'm talking about in those buildings.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just a no-brainer to me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's why I'm not like fighting against it, you know,
Yeah.
because like if my friends are just like, just chill out, like it's all right, like it's not that hard for me to just look around and be like,
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
okay, trees.
Yes.
Okay, monkeys.
Yeah.
Oh, I
No,
love
yeah.
it.
And I feel like a lot of that is so evolutionary. Like I feel like a lot of trouble. I don't think it's a coincidence that you have higher crime rates and higher violence rates in predominantly cities because we're not able to be tactile.
That's
We're
right.
not able to, because that's what humans were intended for. That's our purpose, is to nurture and to care for.
Where's the
And to
grass?
protect. And so when we're not being
Yeah.
put to our evolutionary use, chaos will ensue.
That's right.
It's just what it is.
That's right. Right. And it's a blessing, and it's a blessing to have this awareness, right? Because there's no, I like to say there's no difference in the person that has the awareness versus the person that doesn't, in the terms of you're either aware or you're not.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? It's a blessing to be able to not only be aware of these human and how we've evolved as spirit beings, right? Because we've lost a lot of our sense of spirit, right? Putting our fingers in the soil, so to say. We've lost a lot of that in these industrial revolution and the revolutions of society, trying to make it better, when in all reality, isn't that a crazy balance?
Right.
It's actually kind of worse,
Yeah. Is there any like closing statement you'd like to make before we start wrapping up or anything like that?
Well, I'll just say that, there are places, that you can go to find sanctuary here as well.
Yes, there
so
is.
Shout out once again the Heart,
Yes.
the Lovelogs HQ.
Yes.
I think it's next Thursday or next Friday. There's a healing mind meditation. So what I was saying was Sounds of Healing. So that's
Sounds
an
of
event
Healing.
that we do.
Okay.
That's a yearly event. But the healing mind meditation is monthly at Lovelocks HQ, formerly the Heart. And if you've been there, like it's surrounded by
I love the
a
Heart.
lot of plants there.
Yeah.
And there's a garden in the back,
Yeah.
so they've been growing food over the summers.
I got
the
green
seasons.
tomatoes from there.
Okay.
Mm,
Nice. Yeah. So there's definitely sanctuaries, even like the wellness lady, Shondale,
Yes,
like she has
Shondale.
another like sanctuary space. So like there's
Very
people who
cool.
create these sanctuary spaces
Right.
even here. So I don't want to make it seem like, oh, you gotta go
Right.
like
Entirely.
I don't want to make it seem
Right.
so out of reach.
It's not
for
impossible.
people. There's communities of people who are coming together to
Exactly.
be together in other ways, and developing alternative cultures and values that are more rooted in the knowing of our interdependence, and like the fact that we are plants and we have certain needs, and like being able to
Yes.
come together and
We are plants.
be our own ecosystems.
Yes.
And like
Yeah.
Omaha always talks about the mycelium network and
Mm-hmm.
all of that. So just wanted to shout out the Lovelocks HQ and the Healing Mind Meditation, which you can
Yes.
find on Natural Onyx Dimension website.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to second that. Yes, there is resources and communities that are already here, not only in Dayton, Ohio, but anywhere that you're listening
Yes.
from. I encourage all the viewers to research in your own cities and communities, local gardens, to be self-sufficient. Even just here in Dayton, I know there's actually a local community garden that's free. It takes volunteers off Halbert Street.
Mm-hmm.
There is a man on Facebook that has been all over, and Javez is posting Skano's Garden.
Yes.
I don't actually know him personally,
I
but I'm going to
do.
go and
He's
give a
amazing.
shout out. He even did a self-drawn flyer with like crowns or colored
I
pencils.
love
Yeah.
that.
Didn't have to use
That's so
ink or a
cool.
printer, baby. You know, and he's out there growing stuff. And then you had mentioned
And he's
Edgemont.
doing he just posted that he's doing a youth
Yes, for
class
the youth.
too.
Wow,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
cool.
So tap into Skano's Garden. I
Mhm.
think that's what it's
Yeah.
called, right? Skano's Garden. He's having growing food classes for the youth. You said Edgemont,
Mhm.
the Edgemont Gardens.
Edgemont Solar Garden.
Edgemont Solar Gardens,
Yeah.
that they have programs to help teach people how to grow.
Yeah.
I went to a show out there, like a music show
Nice.
that they had at the garden,
Oh,
which
that's
I
cool.
thought was so
Yeah, they're doing a
beautiful.
lot of cool programming out there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yes.
that's really cool. I'm definitely gonna be looking at
Yes.
And then I think right next to Gem City Market, there's a community garden as
Yes.
well.
Mhm.
that. Mm-hmm.
Yes, yes. And also, get an aloe vera plant.
Yeah.
Grow some asparagus in your backyard. Actually, asparagus, just quick tidbit, is one of those plants that you plant one time and it'll grow forever for the rest of
Yeah.
its life.
Okay.
Plant some asparagus.
Yeah.
You know, plant some foods. Even in the house, I have,
Mhm.
Jay knows, I have random pots, you know, and I'll grow stuff in them. I put some potato spuds that grew the bush out of the potato, put them in there. And so, yeah, you can do things even in your own household. You don't have to travel the world just to get tapped into self-sufficiency. Definitely encourage you to dive into your own community. However, you can do it in your own living room, in your own basement, in your own backyard.
Mm-hmm. And even tapping into like your local herbalists, you know,
Yes.
so like when it comes to your medicine and healing your body and your mind
Yeah.
and your spirit through different healing modalities that are
Right.
available to you as well. The hospitals are there for a reason. Like,
Yes, they
I'm
are.
not gonna say that doctors are not important, but there's also other options.
A place
you know,
for
depending
everything.
on what it is that you
Right.
need.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, touching on that, I'll say really quick, you know, I know you guys know, I'm a special needs mom, and my daughter spent quite a bit of time, almost a year, in the hospital. Excuse me, I feel like I had to burp from my drink. But I've encountered both, right? I've encountered the doctors that were very Eastern medicine, and I've encountered the doctors who are Western medicine, you know. Both of them have their place, you know. My daughter is a good example of that, in the sense of she needed medical intervention. She needed the technological, electronic, a modern day medical intervention, right? And at that same exact time, she didn't need all of it, right? Because there were other doctors in there that said, yeah, give her CBD oil, that'll do great for her brain. Yes, let's get her on a vegan, the vegan food pouch, because that's what I advocated for. You know, so there are doctors out there that understand both sides.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. My aunt, she lives in Skokie, which is like a suburb north of Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
in Illinois, and she has a homeopathic doctor that she goes to.
Love that.
She's been going for the longest, and then she has her primary care doctor, and her primary care doctor actually educated herself about homeopathic
Wow.
medicine so that she could help care for my aunt. And
Yes.
she's been going, she's like in her
I love
90s
that.
now, my aunt.
That
So
is
she's
so
been
cool.
going to this doctor for decades. And so the doctor educated herself so that she could give her medications that work with what she's doing with her homeopathic doctor.
What an act of
Yes.
respect and love on
Definitely.
the physician's part. That's cool to see.
Yes.
I like to
Mhm.
hear that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but there's a lot of local herbalists in
Yes.
Dayton, you know, to get with as well. Danielle Flowers is one who,
Yeah.
who I
Okay.
know.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've heard that name.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah,
Danielle Flowers.
Danielle
Good.
Flowers, I Breathe Art is the
Yes.
Okay, yes,
I
yes,
am
yes,
familiar.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so she's
Okay.
an herbalist and she takes clients and can make concoctions for people
Okay,
depending on what
cool.
they need.
Good.
I know
Love
there's a lot
that.
of other herbalists as well, but that's just one.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I love
I
that.
appreciate that recommendation. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that.
Yes.
One thing I'd like to do that we did last episode that I enjoyed, I'd like to close this out if both of you don't mind. We'd like to sit here and contribute our energy to helping you manifest your vision
Yes.
for the next 5 to 10 years in your life. So if you want to speak in I am or I'm doing statements and manifest alongside us, we'd love to be a part of that for you.
Mhm.
Great.
And whatever you say, we are intentionally giving our full energy to manifest that to the top of pinnacle with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, in 5 to 10 years, I'm running a successful business that allows me to be sustained and well, mind, body, and spirit, live my life in balance, and be present to the family that I'll be building with my partner, who is equally yoked with me, and be making enough money and resources, generating enough money and resources that I'm giving back to the people around me. I'm creating jobs and opportunities and uplifting in my local economy in all of the different places that I call home. I'm growing a lot of plants. I'm growing my foods. I'm growing the majority of what I need to sustain myself and my family. And I'm able to take care of my parents completely. And
Yes.
So are the people who work with me. We're all able to sustain ourselves in mind, body, and spirit, and our families, and contribute to our communities in ways that have material and spiritual impact.
Ashe.
Yes. I love that.
I just call all of your visions, your wants and your visions, every ancestor and every spirit guide that wants goodness out of your life and that wants to see you on the best, most prosperous, fruitionist, I don't know if that's a real word, but I'm going to make it a real word right now, pathway. And I call that all those energies, the good ones that are pertaining to your life, from the north, the east, the south, and the west, to all join together to help you in your goals. And I can't wait to see you in these visions that you have for yourself.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
It's been a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you for coming.
Likewise, thanks for having me. This is a great way to spend my evening.
Yes, and safe travels tomorrow.
Thank you.
Can't wait to see more of your journey.
Me too.
Yeah.
Darsheel, what's the weirdest sound that you can make? Darsheel, which color has the worst personality?
Dark orange.
And
Sorry, Dark Orange.
Sorry, Dark Orange. We still love you.
Darsheel, what's your favorite form of potato?
The purple ones.
Ooh, I like that too.
I like that.
Yeah. Darsheel, what's your least favorite word?
That's it.
This is the Vibe Hive Live Show with
I am Miss Kaur over here.
Yeah, Miss Kaur. All right, I see you.
I'm Samurai West.
And I'm Justina Clear.
Thanks for tuning in. Peace out.
I was caught in the middle, spent way too low, feeling lost and refused. Now I got my foot